Examiner, and Jacob Rich is a policy analyst and contributor at Young Voices. He's also a mathematician. Jason, you know, obviously terrorism is a serious issue in the world. We saw what happened in Sri Lanka. But it seems as though the Chinese have taken protecting themselves from would-be Muslim terrorists to a whole new level. They have close to 3 million Muslims in concentration camps in China. The State Department is speaking out heavily against it, but the Chinese are calling them educational centers. They're reforming their minds, their thoughts, their processes, so it doesn't lead to terrorism in China. You say what to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a non-traditional sense, the Chinese government is probably some of the biggest terrorists in the world in terms of people who are, I mean, think of the number of people who are scared of the Chinese government, not just, you know, around the world, but obviously within China itself in terms of the intimidation, the propaganda, the, you know, just rounding people up in the dark of night and sending them to these education camps. Certainly the Chinese government spreads a plenty of terror around the world. And that's why I thought it was pretty shocking when I think it was Joe Biden this week who said that he's not very worried about the Chinese government and what they're doing. So, you know, it's a serious issue, and China's always been a serious issue, and I think we need to take that
to a different standard. Jacob?
Is he being held to a different standard?
Jose seemed to think so.
I don't know. I mean, the good relationship between Barr and Trump is expected. Like Andrew Jackson said way back in the day, to the victor gets the spoils, and Trump gets to choose who the Attorney General is. So I'd expect him to have a good relationship with the Attorney General and the Department of Justice just because of that. So I don't know. Only Barr knows if what he's doing is biased because he's trying to impress Trump. And only he knows if he's undermining his position in order to protect Trump from anything. It seemed like the Mueller report is complicated. It's very long, and I'll admit that I haven't sat down to read it all. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like standard political noise that's happening at the moment. You know, Democrats don't like what he's saying. It wouldn't matter if what he was saying was true or not, or if he was being forthright or not. They just all have different political motivations. Usually, I don't tell people to do things, but when it comes to vaccination, you probably should. I think measles was eradicated in the early 2000s in the United States. At least that's what the CDC says. And because there's been a culture shifting away from vaccination, which I will give some credit to when there's pushes of vaccinations that really aren't shown to be very effective. I think the flu vaccine is like only 33% effective or something like that. And when you have all this gung-ho language about you need every single vaccination, you need to pay for every single vaccination, government should force you to do that, and you don't have any sort of choice, I can understand why there's a pushback. But if you go as far to not just get the typical measles, smallpox, things that we really should not be dealing with in a 21st century America, then the whole country is going to suffer, and then the people who tout public health lines might actually have a point.
You know, and so it keeps you coming back every week because you don't know what's going to happen.
Jacob, did you start at the beginning?
No, I did not. Started at season 6 as well. So I just binged a bunch, and then a week before the last season started, I finished. So yeah, all caught up now. And the reason I love it is just because it parallels, it's almost a fantasy for what you expect. I mean, often people die for reasons during the show that basically they messed up. Like the Starks, when the Stark family was all murdered,
yes,
he married the woman he was not supposed to, and they paid a big price.
A huge price.
And I just love the show because it just parallels the political environment that I love to talk about. And it just kind of shows how maybe power doesn't exactly corrupt, but the pursuit of power can corrupt. I'm definitely stealing some lines that the Reason podcast did on their which is also excellent. Do that because this fake world you're discussing is really just a slight adjustment of our world.
It is.
Yeah.
Everything
most
is
battle
paralleled.
scenes are actually based on historical events.
Yes.
The
which
dragons,
makes it amazing.
they're nukes. Those are nukes.
They are. They're weapons of mass
Yeah.
The first time they are used, everyone dies.
I'm not buying that.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can discuss this.
Exactly. You know, here's what I'm going to tell you.
They can't nuke the castle.
There's something that we all will agree on. I wanted to have this, and I've got all the right people to do it. No one can disturb my space on Sunday night.
Oh,
8:30
no.
p.m.
Absolutely.